You're listening to CreepGeeks Podcast. Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/CheapGeek. So it begins again. Welcome back to the CreepGeeks Podcast, episode number 174.
Disobeying quarantine earns haunted house punishment, Reddit's Astral army, and Russia is suspicious.
Yeah. So it begins again. Welcome back to CreepGeeks Podcast, episode number 174. We have lots of stuff to talk about in this particular podcast. As we do with every podcast we do, we take stuff that we find to be interesting on the internet and we relay it back to you. And if it's your very first time listening to the podcast, we're glad to have you here. We do appreciate you taking the time to be with us. And if you're a repeat offender, we do appreciate having you here as well, because it's people like you that make us do what we need to do. Yeah. So it begins again with this particular podcast, and it's going to start with some weird stuff that we like to talk about. But first, let us catch up on what's happening in the world. The virus is still out there. People are still being stupid, and we need to be stimulated. I'm getting to the point where I'm getting kind of jealous. People have been stimulated, and we have not been stimulated yet. And it's like, well, come on.
You're talking about the economic
stuff. No. Yeah. Well, I am talking about that because it was like, these 87, 89 million people got these stimulus checks, and I'm like, and who didn't get them? Veterans. No stimulus for you, right? These are things that kept you from getting the stimulus package check or whatever, the direct deposit.
A bunch of old people.
If you're on Social Security, no, right? Okay. If you changed your bank account or something crazy like that, no. If you used a third-party income tax preparation service, no.
If you moved
and your address didn't match up, no. If you had an address where your street was like Frank Lane and you filled out the information, Frank and then Lane, but it was really on your tax return as LN, guess who didn't get no money?
That person.
That person that lived on Frank Lane.
And this is anecdotal reports we're getting.
Yeah, well, these are some of the 10 to 15 things that kept people from being able to do the whole, check my status, get my refund, whatever it's called.
Yeah. On the
IRS portal. And we fit in that boat. It's like, okay, the address was wrong, everything was wrong, but over the weekend, Saturday, so depending on when you're listening to this, if Saturday was a couple days before, then there you go, that's when this happened. The IRS made some changes to the whatever the name of the portal is that you go fill out the information on.
Yeah.
And they went and they took it offline Friday, Saturday night, and they fixed it so that when you did the whole, input to check your status as to whether or not you're getting paid, those error messages that people would receive, like, I can't see your status, or I don't know who you are, or you're not getting no money, or whatever it would say, basically the non-answer you got.
Status unavailable.
Yeah. Then it changed it and said, oh, well, we need you to implement and re-implement and add your stuff to it.
Yeah.
Which we did. So hopefully we will get stimulated.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Oh, or if you owed, you didn't get
it. Yeah. And that was another thing too. Because it had a thing, it's like, did you get a refund? Check this box. Did you have to pay? Check this box.
Yeah.
And so what they finally did was they created something in that portal to basically let you go through and fill out the information to answer those 9 different things that seem to keep you from being able to get a status on whether or not you're getting any money or not.
And if you were more than just one of those 9 things, so if you were 2 of the 9.
Oh, yeah, it doubled down.
Yeah, it just doubled.
It's basically if you had like 3 or 4 going on, you didn't even get to the point where it was like add your information, because what a lot of people were thinking was they would go to this whole, get my status thing, whatever it's called, and they would input the information, and it would just basically say status unavailable.
Yeah.
it didn't even bring you to the next step that said enter in other information like, hey, what was your adjusted gross income?
Hey, what was your name?
What was your previous address? You know what I mean?
What was your name last year?
What was your name last year? Did you get a refund? Did you not get a refund? Enter in your bank routing information and your account information. Was that checking or saving? Basically, you had to answer all the questions that were keeping you from being able to get it, because the way it looked is if you had one thing wrong, like your address, it would say, oh, the address information we have doesn't match. And so you would fix it.
And see, part of this,
I had like all of them. Every single thing it was wrong. It's like, wait a minute now. I filed my taxes. I've done all that stuff. You said I'm eligible. Why am I being singled out? And there's people out there that are suing.
Yeah.
They're like, you know what? You give me my free money.
And see, part of it is, yes, there are people suing. Yes, we are kind of complaining about it or lamenting about it. But it is causing or alluding to a sense of almost distrust due to the fact that things are so compartmentalized, but not compartmentalized.
Yeah.
It's like, how do they know that, maybe last year you owed, but this year they can't find your address, that type of stuff,
And, also it's kind of like.
We don't want to dive too far down that rabbit hole because.
We have no idea how this process actually works. I mean, think about it. A couple weeks ago, they sent money to 86 million people overnight.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people. That's a lot of moving parts, right?
Yeah.
And we're all just gears, tiny little gears, little cogs in the wheel that makes up the U.S., right?
They accidentally sent 8.6 million to one person.
Come to find out that was actually a bank error. That was the bank screwing up. And that was one of the other reasons that would keep you from getting money. Like your bank couldn't handle it.
Yeah.
So, your bank, if you had if you've got 4 or 5 million customers, chances are about 3.8 million of them have filed taxes, and 3.8 million of those 4 million customers are going to want their money.
Our bank actually gives you a message about it when you log in. It's like, we know we're struggling. Yeah.
They say, hey, we know we're not very good. So, and I'm not going to say our bank is Wells Fargo because they had problems, and it's the whole thing. So anyway, as we move back into the podcast, we have since filled out some information, and when it's possible, we're going to be stimulated. But it's our hope that you'll be stimulated with the wonderful things we're going to be talking about today. Okay. Yeah. And so we like to start our podcast with an interesting random factoid. And what we have been doing is we've been doing the coronavirus search trends.
Yeah.
Because they have been changing. Every time we do the podcast, the search trends that are popular have shifted. So at one time it was like the face mask was trending as far as an insight goes. And you're like, wow, face mask, the search for face mask and how to make a face mask has gone up 4,850%.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now the biggest breakout search thing is inject with disinfectant.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. And it's just kind of like, okay, God, here we go.
Here we go.
And it's like, all right. And so you look at that and then, there's like, that's the big one, right? As far as coronavirus goes, it's like the inject with disinfectant is this huge search term. And the next one is for testing. It's book coronavirus test spiked up basically 5,000% more than it was in the past day. And that was in the UK.
What is that about?
That's for people trying to find a place where they can book a coronavirus test.
Oh, okay. I didn't.
Like, where can I go get my test done?
I literally thought they were checking books for corona infection.
No. Well, it's England, right? If you're standing in line, you're queuing.
Oh, okay.
It's things like that. So this is where you can go get a test. So in England, evidently 5,000% higher search term is people trying to figure out where they can get a coronavirus test. Oh. That's kind of scary.
Yeah.
Because, they're supposed to be doing such a way better job than we are with this whole thing, even though they have way less people. And overall, they are smaller geographically.
Oh, wow. Okay, so I translated the German result that shot up 2,100%.
Yeah.
They want to know how young or what age you need to start wearing a face mask.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure if you're breathing, you should probably be wearing a face mask.
Yeah. Now, what gets me, though, is U.S. trending coronavirus questions in the past day. All of these are questions that I would figure people have been asking from the beginning.
Yeah. Well, I think people are bored and are circling back around to try to figure out, the justification as to should this end or not.
Like, where did it?
Should we get back to business or not? So, because there's people that are, they're so tired of being locked up. They're like, especially the businesses out there, like, you're putting us out of business and we want to open back up and all this other stuff. And it becomes a little bit of an issue. And this has been part of the whole coronavirus thing.
Yeah.
is being sequestered, the social distancing and all that, keeping away so you don't spread this disease, this virus, this plague, whatever you want to call it, this pandemic.
Yeah.
And businesses had to shut down. If they weren't essential, it's like you need to shut down. And people, in business, we're going to be out of business. Our business will be out of business. Even though there's been plans and there's been programs put in place to get money to help sort of pay employees and the paycheck protection plan and all this crazy stuff.
Yeah.
And so people are starting to revolt
against
the whole thing. And they're trying to have these like parties and junk. And so we felt it necessary to put in our random search, our random factoids, and kind of segue it into news. Because the way the podcast goes, if you don't know, we talk about interesting and weird stuff like paranormal and weird news, right?
Yeah.
We're kind of an offbeat news podcast. We take a lighthearted approach to this kind of stuff: paranormal, cryptid, silly, strange, trending tech topics, and things like that. And we broadcast from our undisclosed location in Western North Carolina while exercising extreme social distancing. We're so far away from things. We're even far away from internet, right? So we have been seeing these things, and we sort of have these, the coronavirus search trends and things like that, because it kind of gives you a barometer or basically a check on how things are going. And then we start to see this kind of stupid news. It's relatively local to where we are. And so we need to add that in there because we have a news section.
Yeah.
And now we have a more stupid news section.
Yeah.
So, and this is a little disheartening, although it's not unexpected on our part at all. And I'm Greg, by the way.
And I'm Omi.
And we're your hosts for the CreepGeeks Podcast, right?
Yeah.
So there's a movement out there. It's like #reopen.
Yeah.
Like #reopen North Carolina, #reopen wherever. It's all this stuff to get people out and about and say, hey, we're not going to take this pandemic crap anymore.
Yeah.
We're going to reopen things and get the ball rolling again and get back in society. Like it's a choice that you have. Say, you know what? We're just going to reopen.
And it's not just, it's not just NC. Some of our recent Facebook
friends.
Like
Florida, Texas.
Well,
not Texas. Where was it?
The really big ones are Ohio and Wisconsin. Those are two really big
ones.
The
boring
right
states.
Which is, so you cannot categorize this as the dumb South.
No.
Granted, this is pretty dumb, but these movements are pretty big in Ohio and some other states as well.
Some boring states. And North Carolina's kind of boring too.
Yeah.
But it's like they have this attitude that, okay, it's the local government and the federal government that's keeping everything closed down. And since it's keeping closed down and it's taking away our livelihood, and it's like they're trying to minimize how bad this virus is.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're like, well, screw it. Screw the man. We're just going to get out here and we're going to do it anyway. We're going to reopen things. Like that's going to make things better. This isn't like, let's just, if we turn a blind eye to it and just continue business as normal, we won't be affected.
Yeah.
This is the kind of stuff that's like, oh, let's just throw away all the social distancing and all the safe practices that's been put in place by all the other countries in the world, including the U.S., to help prevent the continuing spread of this disease. And people will use this stupid comparison where they'll say, well, only like 5,000 people have died from coronavirus, but heart disease claims 100 million a year. It's not the same. You know what I'm saying? It's not the same. And the thing about this coronavirus thing is that I don't think a lot of people realize is like, okay, yes, you can get SARS.
Yeah.
And 2% of the people that contract SARS, and this is a number I'm completely making up because if you Google it, you'll find the number probably a little bit higher, a little bit lower, but the comparison is valid.
Yeah.
2% of the people that basically contract or whatever you want to say, get SARS, right? Don't die. That's it. It's like, that's the mortality rate. It's like 2%. So 98% of the people that can contract it don't die.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas at last check, the last time I paid attention to the corona, which made it a scary thing in my mind, was that over 20% of the people that get corona die. The mortality rate is higher.
Oh, the mortality rate for SARS is estimated at less than 4%.
Okay, I'm sorry, less than 4%. More
recently, though, due to all the other SARS strains, officials are guessing around 6 to 7%.
Okay, 6 to 7%.
Yeah.
And what is it for coronavirus?
More. I don't have that tab.
It's open. Way more. And that was the thing. It was like, yes, granted the number of people, that have got have got coronavirus, right? is less than the number of people that got SARS. However, the number that die from it is way higher. So if you think about it, if you did an apples to apples, nuts to bolts, shackles to brackets comparison there, it's like, wait a minute. If you take 1,000 people with SARS and 1,000 people with Corona, guess how many more people are going to die with Corona?
The Corona people.
A lot more.
Yeah.
So the mortality rate is higher. And this thing actually affects people in different ways. A lot of people get affected with the chest where they can't breathe and becomes a breathing thing. Some people are being affected by shutting down their internal organs. And it's a thing, man.
Yeah.
And so let's go ahead and have this, you know what, we can't take it anymore. Let's do a stupid-ass hashtag thing. Let's do hashtag reopen North Carolina.
Yeah.
And get a bunch of people together, right, in downtown.
Community assembly event.
A community assembly event.
Yeah.
And it's not perfect, but we're going to get out there, and the purpose of this gathering is to petition for the opening on a county level and supporting our local elected officials for such an opening.
So
all surrounding counties are welcome to attend. Peaceful and calm assembly while maintaining appropriate social distancing.
Oh my gosh.
If you go and you are 6 feet away from someone, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they have ate something like Taco Bell or another fast food that causes noxious emissions, and they let one fly and you smell it,
mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Because it's going to happen. Somebody's going to bust ass and you're going to smell it.
Yeah.
Imagine if they have coronavirus and they cough a little bit. And it's the same thing.
Coughs and sneezes travel farther and faster than gas.
Yeah, a fart is like maybe 25 miles an hour. A sneeze is like 130 miles an hour. So if we let's get on out there, right? Let's just get on out there and we're going to maintain social distancing and we're going to protest like you dumb asses.
So I've been slowly tracing the origins of some of these, and not only is it basically a major campaign by these businesses that are small to mid-size losing business, it's technically being secretly helped by the larger businesses and larger corporations. Sure. On top of that, nobody is addressing, and your comment or post will get deleted if you ask the question, okay, if these businesses want to reopen and one of their employees is high risk or immunocompromised, are you going to fire them? Are you going to give them paid leave? Are you going to let them take time off until they feel safe?
Are you going to exercise the things you need to put in place to protect other people?
Yeah.
And the short answer is they're not going to answer.
They're not going to answer.
Because if you look at this post right here, right?
Or you get kicked out of the group like I just did.
Yeah. It's like, yeah. Okay, here we go. This post was made 23 hours ago. There is one comment.
It's because all the other ones were deleted.
But it's been seen by 87 people.
Yeah.
And which tells me if you put a comment out there that says, you guys are stupid, you're asking for trouble, and you're going to cause a spike and a second wave of coronavirus infections, right?
Yeah.
By doing this, regardless if you're being peaceful and calm as you assemble using appropriate social distancing, you're still going to cause issues. Because that's the thing about this whole thing. And that's the thing that a lot of people don't understand. You may be super healthy and carrying this thing and rocking this disease, this virus, or whatever you want to call it, this contagion in your body for 2 weeks and not even know it, but you are spreading it to people all over the place. So you are basically an unaware patient zero spreading this thing to other people who are later on going to get sick and have no idea why.
You mean like Florida spring break kids
yes.
and college students? Yeah.
Yes.
Who went home and gave it to their
And whether
grandma?
you think this is a real thing, a bioengineered thing, a 5G thing, whatever, it's contagious.
Yeah.
And that's another thing about 5G that gets me worked up. Okay, exposure to 5G causes the symptoms and effects of this virus, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then how the hell is it contagious? you see what I'm saying? So whether
if that were the case, as many times as we've been to town,
we should be contagious as hell.
And we should also have great service.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, when we don't, it's ignorant. It's like, come on, man. And it doesn't matter whether you think it's real or not. If it's killing people.
I'm going to rub my smartphone
if there's any chance at all,
you
know, if there's any chance, and this is coming from somebody who basically has a different outlook on things because I broke the hell out of my neck and almost died, literally, right?
Mm-hmm.
If there's any chance that this is a real thing and spreading it can kill a bunch of people, wouldn't you want to exercise restraint?
No, they're saying
it's so stupid. It's like
they're saying the detriment to our economy and small businesses is going to kill America.
And it's not.
So
that's something else too. They say that, you know, our economy is going to tank because we're giving away money. right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's also going to tank because we're not selling stuff. And it's also going to tank because we're not, and that's not going to be the case at all because the government is actually giving out money, right? And they're not giving it away free money. It's money that taxpayers have paid. So let's wipe that argument away because everybody's going to say, well, I paid for that. It's like, well, whatever you did, so what? Right? We all have. The economy is not going to tank because we have been shut down for like a month or 2 months.
Yeah.
It won't. I'm sorry. It's not going to happen. And then also that whole argument about, well, our oil reserve prices are down to $0 a barrel. Okay. That's great. It's still not going to sink the country. Our country is more than just corn and oil and everything else. And guess what? It's a stimulus check. People are still going to buy stuff.
Yeah.
You know, they're not just paying their rent or trying to pay their rent. They're buying stuff. They're buying groceries, right? Which is keeping that infrastructure whole thing going with the truck drivers bringing the food and producing and all this other crazy stuff.
They're buying beautiful bracelets from CreepGeeks.com.
Sure. But the whole point is like, let's just be done with this whole thing and let's go out there and do a hashtag reopen, bring a bunch of people together, and let's just keep spreading this crap so that we have to keep be locked down and quarantined longer because people can't exercise restraint. And they also act like if you're a small business owner and your business goes down, that there's not going to be some kind of recourse for you to maybe get some aid or get some kind of something to help either bring your business back or reduce the amount of impact it has on you as a whole. Because everybody is affected by this. This is not just like you couldn't pay your bills and you lost your business. There will be and are starting to be basically have programs in place to allow you to sort of forego that.
Yeah. Now,
so stop being stupid,
and
is my point.
They're not, though, because it is apparent that stupidity is running rampant. And this is only a reflection to a greater problem in society, how we have let media and misinformation control us in a way that it's causing detrimental effects to us as humans. Like right now, I'm looking on the Department of Health website for North Carolina because I heard a horrible thing in the fact that there are so many people in certain states who feel that since their state is not as affected as other states, their state should not be held to the same quarantine like measures.
Yeah. And you know, and that's the kind of problem that we have, right?
Now, Burke County has one of the higher infection rates of corona in North Carolina. They have 86.
But they have a hashtag that says hashtag reopen North Carolina, Burke County.
Now, granted, there's places that have 250, 240, and 90.
Well, see, that's the problem that we have, right?
You know.
Okay, my state's less affected, so these rules shouldn't apply to me.
Yeah.
That's the attitude that people have. And it's also the attitude that people have when you look at something like this. It's like, okay, I feel fine, so I shouldn't have to worry about these corona things, these rules and stuff that's put in place for corona. And you have someone else that's been affected by it. So if you're the government, how hard is that to try to manage this entire thing? Because if you apply laws or rules to govern a small group of people that don't affect the larger group of people or vice versa, isn't that like discrimination? Isn't that like racism?
It is a form of discrimination.
Sure. So you have to kind of levy it and make it the same for everybody.
Oh, now here we look at Mecklenburg County in North Carolina with 1,482.
A lot of that's probably from the Mecklenburg prison.
That's actually, yeah, I heard something about that.
Yeah, because prisons and places where you got people locked in. But, you know, but see, here's part of this too. And this is just drives me crazy with this whole hashtag reopen thing.
Yeah.
This event that's been put on Facebook. Signage is welcome with peaceful messages in support of the county reopening. So what happens if I show up with a sign that says, "You're all idiots, go home"? Are they going to come up and try to take my sign away? Are they going to infringe upon my First Amendment rights?
You have to put the word please.
Please go the hell home.
Damn
right?
it.
Please go home. Please watch more Netflix. Please, let's not be stupid.
Yeah.
Which is what's going to happen. So part of me, and it's a small part, but it still lists that part of me that likes slapstick humor, where somebody gets hit in the face or something, you think it's funny, and you can't help it. It's just a knee-jerk reaction kind of thing.
Yeah.
Hopes that some of these people that show up there, and they have this big event, and it's covered by the news, and there's like 40 or 50 people show up, and then later on, they all have corona. Because that's what's going to happen.
Don't say it.
Some butthead is going to spread the disease to all these people. Social distancing in this point is not going to work, and their little peaceful, calm assembly and special speakers and signages being welcome is not going to stop this virus. Stop being ignorant. And it's just dumb. And with that being said, we're going to move on. Because I'm getting all worked up with this dumb, just ignorant. Just stay home. If you don't have to go, stay home.
Yeah. What
you should be doing, if you are a small business owner and you're worried about this kind of thing, you have the freaking internet.
Yeah, y'all got better internet than us.
And aside from whether you have fast internet, you just get on YouTube and do small business Corona. And there are tons of YouTubers that are more than just like, look at my funny cat and doing little stupid prank videos and stuff like that are actually lawyers, small business owners, the Small Business Alliance, small business, alliance.gov. They're putting out videos telling you what is available for you as a small business owner, what options are out there, some of the benefits you can get. All of that stuff is out there. Take the time instead of complaining about it and research it.
Yeah, and don't just stick with the news or the Small Business Association in your county. I can say for a fact the nearby areas where we live, they may not have current information or information that's evolving. Look on YouTube. Look for the standards for your state or your region. There is assistance out there. Yes, it may be cumbersome, but there is a way to reach a solution.
And this is part of doing your due diligence instead of complaining. Go to Small Business Alliance, right? Google it, or do SBA.gov.
Yeah.
And find out what's available in your area. Go to YouTube. Watch these videos where they tell you about your paycheck, the paycheck protection plan.
Yeah.
Or the loan that you can get, or the EIDL, which is another loan that you can get. All this stuff that you can get to sort of further along your business, or if you're a gig worker, or if you're a self-employed person, or if you get a 1099 versus an actual whatever, W-2, W-4, there are options for you.
I just helped out somebody this week by explaining how the musicians that work for him and do gigs can actually apply for artist relief funds.
Yes.
But
people aren't paying attention to that, and they're going to go, and it's just becoming a thing. And it's like there has been no other time in human existence where there is not one thing that you cannot find. We have all the information, mankind's information, available at our fingertips.
Yeah.
Exercise it. Google it. In other words, Google. It's like, do you even Google, bro? Just Google it, man. And you know what? Bookmark it. Yeah. Print it. Copy the text on the page. Put it in a notepad file. Research it. There's lawyers and stuff on YouTube that are explaining all this kind of thing.
Should that lead into this next stupider news?
Yes.
Those lawyers, those people who do the research, yes, there are bigger businesses that have staff that do nothing but that. And as mad as we can be at some of them, those businesses, that's what they pay people to do. Now, granted, it seems a little unsavory, but that's the way things happen. This kind of made me mad when it hit the news, and that's Ruth Chris Steakhouse, the place where you can pay upwards of $230 for a single person's meal sometimes, depending on what you order. They had lawyers. They had people research. They had people filing for the Paycheck Protection Program. They had people filing for the SBA loans, small business loans. Granted, Ruth Chris is a chain. They're all over the United States. But somehow they managed to get a $20 million loan.
Huh.
Yeah.
You know what they did, right?
What?
They went online and filled out the same stupid form that you could fill out if you're a small business of one. Now,
the reason this is a little angering, though, is because they were probably some of the first people to do it, along with Shake Shack and a couple of other big businesses. Right. And a lot of areas are running into trouble because these paycheck protection programs, they're getting error messages saying there's nothing available.
Yeah, because they're giving away like $20 million to organizations and businesses that don't probably need the $20 million.
I mean, because I'm pretty sure.
There better not be a damn airline logging in trying to grab it. It's like, I got to pay $35 to carry my freaking luggage and get a bag full of like I can't even have peanuts anymore because they're against the law. You better not be trying to get some small business protection
And see,
loan.
that's the thing. Ruth Chris is a nationwide chain. How do they qualify as a small business?
Number of people they employ.
I mean, what clever lawyering did they come up with?
Well, I mean, think about it. Maybe they have like, I don't even know how many businesses, technical technically how many businesses they have. Maybe they only have like 20 stores.
The chain,
and they have less than 10,000 people
well,
that qualify as a small business.
The chain claimed eligibility for the aid by showing it had fewer than 500 employees at each of its more than 100 individual locations in the U.S., Canada, and Mexico.
Okay, so technically they actually fall within the guidelines.
I'm sorry.
I'm not saying that they deserve it or anything, but they actually fall within the guidelines. And that should tell you as a small business owner, if you're running into difficulty, that this is something that you could also do.
Yeah.
Now, personally, I think that, somebody should have been maybe sitting there and saying, hold on a second. I paid $130 for a steak at Ruth Chris.
It was $130.
You're not getting $20 million.
Yeah. It wasn't $230. It was $130.
Yeah. Let me give you $1 million. You're not getting $2 million. But see, and that's part of it too. People are mad at like businesses that are doing this, but it's also supposed to be there to pay their employees paychecks.
Yeah.
And what I want to know is there going to be any kind of way to make sure that these companies that get this money that are supposed to be paying paychecks are actually paying the paychecks?
Yeah.
Because that's where I'd have a problem. If like say we had a business of 10 and we got this business loan based off of our paychecks that we would be paying to the people that work for us, right? And then we just fired all 10 of those people and kept all that money. That would be the things that I'd have a hard time with.
Well, and there's a good point in this particular article. Kura Sushi, they announced they'd be returning their $5.98 million loan, which it received after closing more than 400 U.S. locations in mid-March.
Okay, see?
That's just...
And it's just more fuel for the people who are like, well, there you go, businesses are, it's like, okay.
Yeah. That's just, they played the
wrong.
game.
Yeah, well.
It's wrong.
They did what they're supposed to do, and this is what they got, and they just basically exercised the fact that a lot of businesses have no soul.
But it also proves that as a small business or struggling business, if you have the resources, do a little bit of research, you should be eligible for this stuff too.
Yeah, because I'm sure, one of these guys sat down and Googled it and said, wait, I could just fill this out, and filled it out.
Yeah.
So, all right. So anyway, let's kind of move back into the podcast a little bit. And so for people to keep breaking the rules, there needs to be some kind of punishment, right? And I'm all about life and liberty and being able to do what you want. But at the same time, though, if you do something stupid and it causes me to lose my life, I have a problem with that.
Mm-hmm.
Your liberty should infringe upon my right to live. Right?
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of the way I look at it. So it's like at the end of the day, we can't just have a world without law. We just can't. It just doesn't work that way. And it's like, it's not the purge out there. This is a virus where people have to stay home and make stupid TikTok videos while they're waiting for a freaking check from the government. Pretty much what it boils down to. And we have not been stimulated yet. So I can gripe about this. And yes, as I talked about it before, and you pointed out the steps, right? That we had all 10 of them, all 10 of the things that would cause the IRS error message we had, but we fixed all that, right?
No, I think we didn't have 2 of them.
No, we did.
Well, we're not old.
No, yeah,
so
you're
we're
right.
Not old.
Okay, yeah. So it wasn't the Social Security thing, but everything else that applied. Well, in Indonesia, there are people out there that are breaking quarantine.
Oh.
So you know what the punishment is for some of these places?
What?
In Indonesia? The article goes like this. Indonesians disobeying quarantine are being locked in haunted houses as punishment.
That is awesome.
I know. We know a bunch of people that would like that to happen right now.
Yeah.
You'd be like, oh, you caught me outside at the park today eating a Subway sandwich with my old lady. You mean we get to be locked into a haunted house and probably do an investigation?
Heck yeah.
Yeah. That's
kind of cool.
So basically, this is an article from Mysterious Universe, and it's done by a Sequoia Kennedy, who I've never heard of before, but that's okay. It says every country has its own way of dealing with the coronavirus pandemic. Indonesia, it seems, has decided to take the spooky route.
Oh.
Yeah. And so one regency in Indonesia, I guess it's like a province or a town or whatever, a city, whatever you want to call it, a region, right?
Yeah.
Has decided to punish people that have been breaking quarantine by locking them inside a haunted house. Yeah. And so there's a whole bunch of words that I can't pronounce, and I'm not going to because they're names. But basically, this regency in central Java has had an influx of people native to the region trying to escape the lockdown in cities by returning to their small hometowns. So they're trying to go back home.
That's kind of smart, though.
Yeah, like, hey, let's get out in the country. Let's go home where it's smaller and we have less people to probably spread this disease, right? Because social distancing and all that kind of stuff.
Something similar is happening in New York, Massachusetts, and New Hampshire. Yeah.
And so these people were basically be quarantined in place mandatorily. Mm-hmm. Is that a word? Mandatorily? Okay, anyway, they had a mandatory quarantine of 14 days for any people coming in and out of other regions, so they were locked where they were. So you kind of like locked in place. Some of these people, however, weren't obeying the quarantine order and they were trying to go home in smaller provinces or regions where they came from, right? And it says if they disobey self-isolation, right, several villages have asked for my permission to quarantine them in an abandoned elementary school or abandoned houses.
What?
It says I gave my permission if need be, that they should be locked inside in a haunted house if necessary, but we'd still feed them and monitor them. So what they're trying to say is, and this is where the article kind of took a little bit of a turn for me, because I'm like, they're just throwing people in haunted houses going, this is what you get.
Isn't this like the plot to like Saw or one of those Cabin in the Woods?
Not really. What they're saying is, okay, you got a bunch of people that try to come back to the small town, where they're from, rather than implement them or bring them back into the community where they can possibly spread. Yeah. Then you just, hey, quarantine them in an abandoned building, quarantine them away from the other villagers or.
Okay.
And if that's an abandoned building or elementary school or haunted house, that's fine. But we'll still feed them, though. You know what I mean? So they're just saying keep them away. But I'm like, well, how would that even be an option? And what it is the guy who said this, right? Or the lady who said this. Yeah. She's got a super long name. It's like Regent Kusandar Untang Uni Sukawati.
So just stick with Kustinar.
Okay. Well, she said basically, if you got people that disobey, lock them up.
And
right?
Kustinar,
but feed them, though.
Yeah. And it seems like an exasperated hyperbole, but it's not. Kustinar made good on her threats of paranormal punishment when two people who had agreed to self-isolate broke said self-isolation. Kustinar described the measures taken. Two Plu residents agreed to self-isolate, but they violated the order. So they were locked inside an abandoned haunted house. Had they obeyed their order, they wouldn't have been locked in there.
It's like, and according to her, the abandoned house is located in a rice paddy, right? It's known by the locals to be haunted. Yeah. And it's not known how long the two people will be kept inside the haunted house, nor what manner of haunting the house is supposed to have.
Oh, that's scary.
So like, just get in the haunted house.
Just get in there.
Get in the haunted house. You didn't, get in and so basically you don't even know what kind of haunting you're going to have. And there's a picture, but it's obviously not a picture of the haunted house because it's not in a rice paddy, but they're like, and so, I mean, now a lot of these places are super suspicious and super, superstitious. So they're going to be like, okay, so you've been locked in this haunted house for 2 weeks. What's to keep you from being a super zombie? Or maybe you're a witch now. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so, basically the Regency in Indonesia is not the only place that's been locked up. Yeah. Or been locking people up to do a sort of the paranormal enforcement of the quarantine. Yeah. There's another village in a place I also can't pronounce in Central Java.
Tuksongo is the village.
Bang Xiaoping. I have no idea how to say.
Tuksongo.
Okay.
Also in Central Java, has recently drawn attention online due to villagers dressing up as pakongs, which are zombie-like creatures of Indonesian folklore, to guard the gate of the village at night and spray disinfectant on anyone who tries to pass through.
So they're trying to scare away people, and they're spraying them like the Albanians do in malls. When you get you know what I mean? Because that's what they were in Virginia. There, a lot of them were like Albanians where they would work part-time. Yeah. You go cruising by and they spray you with perfume. Oh, yeah. And you tell them no, and they would do it anyway.
Or they try to grab your hair and use a flat iron on it. Yeah. That made me mad.
Yeah. That's Europe, though.
That's pretty creative, though. They dress up according to folklore.
To scare away the stupid people.
As zombies.
And then they spray them with disinfectant.
Spraying Lysol. That's Indonesia's kind of cool. I'm just like.
I don't know. I mean, I see stuff like that, and I can see why they were doing it, because they're just preying on people's, Yeah. Maybe they're the superstitions and stuff, and then the whole spraying them with disinfectant is kind of weird. But then we have people here that actually believe that the president said, inject yourself with Lysol. Yeah. Or bleach. And it's like, come on, man.
Yeah. But, I mean, this regent, Kudsnar, that's pretty awesome. She's like, I don't care. Lock them up in the haunted house.
You're not going to listen? We're going to lock you up in a haunted house.
Yeah. But people in Indonesia are actually very scared of ghosts.
Well, yeah, they're super superstitious, and that makes sense because if they got people dressing up like zombies and stuff and spraying people with disinfectant to keep them away, and it's working, imagine if they're like, hey, we're not just going to lock you up in a house. It's going to be a haunted house. I'm like, that's it, I'm out.
That's awesome, though.
So I was like, that's pretty crazy. So I thought it was kind of funny. Put that in there.
Yeah.
So you want to break the rules? Haunted house for you. Getting locked in there. Yeah. Now, on the other side of this, if you're just somebody who's basically, you know what, I'm gonna adhere to the quarantine. I'm going to be locked in, but I still have a hankering for travel. I'm going to see what Reddit has to offer.
Oh, gosh.
And basically, you can meet Redditors who are using astral projection to escape quarantine.
I'm not down with this.
Yeah. So basically, there's, if you do Reddit at all, and you have to be cool with Reddit because Reddit's a weird thing, man. Reddit's like advanced internet. So if you don't know what I'm talking about with Reddit, and you're maybe a listener that we have in our podcast who maybe has no idea what Reddit really is, you probably should stay away from this because you can get yourself in trouble.
If you find Tumblr difficult, then you don't want Reddit.
If you don't know what Tumblr is, then you should definitely stay away from Reddit. But Reddit is a place where people get together, and there's all sorts of groups and stuff, and they're usually separated, in these little subsects or little subgroups, like what they call subreddits.
Yeah.
And one of them is astral projections.
Oh, yeah.
And so, according to a group of paranormal enthusiasts on Reddit, right, astral projection could be the vehicle we need to basically get on out and start traveling around without breaking the quarantines. It's pretty much what it boils down to. So basically, they talk about like last year when there was supposed to be a 1 million strong raid on the supposed alien stronghold, Area 51. It says now the COVID-19 pandemic forcing everyone to quarantine at home. Venturing further and farther than local state parks seems to be a dream from a lost reality.
Okay.
But what if there was a way to explore our planet that didn't put us in harm's way and was more stimulating than scrolling through Google Earth? And what if, while we were at it, we could storm Area 51 too? Yeah. So basically, falling somewhere between a lucid dream and near-death experience, astral projection is what they're talking about, is a sensation of separating from your physical self, keeping your mind awake while your body's asleep, and using that to travel the universe.
Okay.
Yeah. So basically, there's thousands of practitioners who do this sort of thing, right? And they get together on this subreddit, which is basically the Astral Army. So if you're doing like /r/Astral Army on Reddit.
Oh, you call it our Astral Army.
Well, I have to say / to people that don't know that in Reddit you use the R to go into your subreddit. Because if they just do R Astral Army, they're not going to find it. So you have to do r/Astral Army, right? But what it is, it's a focal point for the physically curious to embark on an out-of-body mission to its off-limits locations, including military bases, Wuhan, the Pentagon, and supposed hives of paranormal activity like Skinwalker Ranch.
I wouldn't want to go there, astrally.
No, I wouldn't either. It's probably going to be busy.
Because what if you got...
It's going to be busy, man.
Skinwalker Ranch, what if you got trapped there? And not just it's busy, but it's busy with people who got trapped there.
I think it's going to be busy with a bunch of people who just gone to the subreddit and tried to figure out astral projection, figured it out by accident, and now they're stuck there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So pretty much what this is subreddit is a place where people share their experiences and journeys that they've taken. You could probably learn, right, how to do it. And it's like, like this one person's a 19-year-old Wisconsinite who goes by the name Commander XXX, Commander XXX, or Commander 30, if you're all about Roman numerals. He told Motherboard, and this is basically, this article came off of Vice.com.
Yeah.
He told him during a voice call that he started the subreddit motto, projection for protection, because he was intrigued by the possibilities of group astral projection. Here's how he says it works. The traveler creates an astralscape by visualizing a location in great detail.
Yeah.
And then you connect the visualization to a sigil, which is basically an occult symbol, right? So in other words, it's a symbol to symbolize where you're going.
Yeah.
It's energized with a certain intent. And by meditating on this sigil and recalling it in the out-of-body state, if you can get to the out-of-body state, you can use it as a shortcut to go to that desired location, mirroring fast travel in a video game. So in other words, you get in the out-of-body state, you use the sigil to get you wherever the sigil is basically representing.
Yeah.
And while you're there, boom, you pop right there, and there's a bunch of people hanging around, you're all hanging out together.
I just can't get down with this. I'm sorry. And part of it is because I'm such an old fogey when it comes to the occult. I have very strict beliefs about sigils, and this just bothers me that they explain it, that it can be this easy.
Yeah. And it's not.
And it's probably my bias right there, but I don't know. I'm having a hard time. This is a hard pill for me to swallow. So, yeah.
And if it's a hard pill for anybody to swallow, remember, our government did the same thing for a long time.
True.
Yeah.
But
and
they had a much
Stargate
more
project, and you also had,
structured
there was even a
environment.
movie about it talking about remote viewing and things like that, which sort of tied into OBEs, or out-of-body experiences, and astral projection and things like that. Men who stare at goats, or whatever it was called.
Yeah. But again, those were structured environments, and this is, granted, Reddit has an incredible structure, an incredible base, great things happen from Reddit. I just have a really hard time with the way in which they are saying this can be accomplished.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing. If there's a million people looking into this, there's probably some people who can actually do it. And they're like, oh, that was great. Yeah, it was easy. I don't know. So anyway, this sort of ties into astral projection and out-of-body experiences. So if you want to kind of research that on your own and figure out if it's something that you want to attempt or try, that's all on you. But you can become part of the astral army. So go to Reddit, figure it out, and see if it's something you want to do. But I just thought it was kind of funny. It's like, wouldn't that be an ad for TV? We're like just sitting there like, I'm tired of watching TV. It's like, are you tired of being cooped up at home during a quarantine? Learn astral projection. And be like, what? And it's just somebody on the couch just astral projecting themselves somewhere.
There have been some weird commercials.
Oh, yeah, there's a bunch of them.
Like lately, very specific.
Well, they're trying to, but the one I don't like is the one that keeps going, hey, this is the new normal. And it's like, no, it's not.
I mean, the two that are ruining both Rihanna and Foo Fighters for me. Those two.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if I hear Rihanna one more time, I'm going to cry. If I hear Foo Fighters, don't make me, I love Dave Grohl. He's a wonderful person. Don't make me hate this song.
Yeah, there goes my hero.
Yeah, but
so I just thought it was kind of funny to see that you could be punished by going into a
there's been some weird
haunted house
commercials lately that have been directing people online, and not just like go to Etsy, because I've started to see Etsy commercials more. There's just been some weird ones.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna put,
but
because I hate them too. So it's just like whatever, man. Yeah. So somebody's like, hey, do you have any suggestions for any kind of like eczema medication or something? I'm like, absolutely not. Because I've seen all these medical ads too. It's like, it kind of adds to stuff, basically talking about stuff that you could get, like if you were like locked up in a cell somewhere and not being able to go out and get sunshine, right? It's like you can get all these weird rashes and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. So there you go. You can astral project yourself somewhere if you want to learn how to do it. And we kept that deliberately vague because I'm not going to basically say, hey, on the internet, you can learn how to astral project. And there's a group that you can hang out with other people telling you how to do it. But if you're interested, it is, basically it's Astral Army on Reddit. So, there you go.
Okay.
But there is a good thing coming out of the quarantine.
Yeah.
You don't even know what it is.
Yes, I do.
Right. What is it?
30,000 more people looking for the Loch Ness Monster during the lockdown.
Yeah.
It's a pun.
Yeah, it's like people should be staying home, but evidently they're not. They're exercising social dincing, and what better place to do that than the hunt for the Loch Ness Monster?
And they're doing it via webcam.
Yep.
That's the cool thing.
Hey, let's log into the old Loch Ness Monster.
Yeah.
Webcam, whatever it's called.
So
Monster Cam.
Yeah.
I have no idea what it's
and
called.
2019 would have been a record-breaking year for Loch Ness Monster sightings if there was no 24/7 Monster Cam feed available for anyone. And now, with the lockdown, more and more people are searching for the Loch Ness Monster via the Loch Ness Live Cam.
Yeah.
So that's really cool.
Yeah, and I should say that the astral projection people that are in the Vice article are telling you about their experiences. So I don't know how hard it would be to get into that group and try to get in and learn.
Yeah.
You might have to pass some kind of test or something like that. I don't know. So that's our disclaimer. So just be careful. Yeah. And while you're looking for the Loch Ness Monster, also be careful.
Yeah.
Yeah. You might see something. Or you might not. You never know. And the thing about the Loch Ness Monster is that when you have 30,000 more people looking for it, but they're using, 5 or 6 webcams or whatever?
Yeah.
I don't really know how effective that's going to be.
You don't know. And plus, they have many messages that display, I guess, at the bottom of the webcam pages. Things like, please do not visit the Highlands and Islands during the coronavirus COVID-19. Our health service and shops are already at breaking point. Thank you.
Yeah, which means that there are people that are actually going there physically and trying to find a monster as well.
And why visit when you can watch one of the prime sighting locations from your bed or favorite chair?
Yeah, that's what they say. But it's like, joke's on you. Yeah. We've already been locked down for 60 days. I need to go outside.
Yeah.
Got some kind of weird rash growing on me, right?
Reported sightings have risen 15% since the lockdown.
Yeah, I think if you got more people looking for something, more people are going to see something.
Yeah. So
see something, say something.
Yeah. So there were 18 sightings in the record-breaking year of 2019. This is the end of April, and there's 2. How does that add up? How does that add up to a 15 increase in sightings in 2020? And I guess they're just doing statistics.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
People seeing the same thing.
Yeah.
Or corroborating those experiences.
That's another.
There's also theories out there the Loch Ness Monster is actually nocturnal.
Oh.
And that's why you don't see him as much. And there's also other sort of things, people saying that, there's color variations in what people see for Loch Ness Monsters that may have something to do to it as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you want to find out a lot about the Loch Ness Monster, just, on a regular, it seems like Mysterious Universe is a good place for that because they always, anything Loch Ness Monster pops up, they'll put it out.
Yeah.
Or at least where you can see it. So.
Well, like we supposedly have our own lake monster here in North Carolina.
Yep.
And I never hear about it anymore.
Well, that's because people don't see it.
Yeah.
So,
that's true.
It's like, if you don't see it, don't say anything, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, so it's kind of a thing. And I did see this, and we're getting ready to basically going to wrap the podcast up here in a little bit, but I seen this, and I thought this was kind of funny.
Mm-hmm.
So Russia is kind of suspicious about the Space Force.
Oh.
Remember we have our own Space Force?
Yeah.
So this is an article that was also I've seen on Mysterious Universe and thought it was kind of funny. It says, Russia becoming more suspicious as Space Force unveils its first weapon. And this is by Paul Seaburn. And, okay, so just to sort of wrap it in a small package instead of going through and reading the whole thing, the U.S. Space Force has its own weapon, or its first weapon. It's called a Counter Communication System, or CCS, Block 10.2.
Okay.
And it's not saying exactly what the weapon is, but it's basically a jammer. It basically jams electronic signals right from the ground into the satellites that they're using to communicate with each other. So, if you're in one place and you're a general and you're sending orders to troops on the ground or whatever, it's going to go to a satellite and satellite's going to beam it down and the soldiers are going to see it and they're going to run around, right? It's communicating. It's like battlefield communications.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this thing jams those signals, right?
Okay.
So in other words, it's like turning off your satellite. So if you rely on multiple satellites to sort of communicate and coordinate your battlefield actions on Earth, but the satellites get turned off, that makes things way harder, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is the weapon that we have in space. And they're saying that these weapons being new that we have in our Space Force, right, is basically being able to jam these communications. And the latest generation of these jammers covers a greater frequency range than before. And because of that, Russia is not pleased.
Okay.
Yeah. So they say we also have lots of questions. We asked them quite a long time ago, and we want to have an answer after all. And basically, they want a full-fledged, meaningful Russian-U.S. dialogue on a wide spectrum of issues of space activities. Security Russian and U.S. Senior diplomats agreed on January 16th that they'll help resolve mutual concerns. So the Russians want to know what our weapon's all about and how it works.
Yeah.
And we're going, yeah, okay, we'll get together and we'll talk about that. Now, what it should be said is that the Russians have had a weapon like this in space for a long time. And where the Russians are relatively sort of aggravated by the whole thing is that ours is better.
Yeah.
Ours works better.
Okay.
And so, yeah, they're like, what? So it's okay for the Russians to jam satellite communications, but since we have one up in space and we actually have a Space Force now where we can kind of get more funding and we can actually do this sort of thing and we're kind of doing it out in the open, they don't like it.
Okay.
And you know what I say to that?
What?
Boo! Oh, boo! And what we're saying right now is that the CCS is the only offensive weapon system, or basically offensive system that we have in the United States Space Force arsenal.
Yeah.
And this upgrade puts the Force in Space Force and is critical for space as a warfighting domain. Now, here's the thing. And here's the one thing and the one reason why I kind of put this in there.
Yeah.
Is Paul Seaborn, he ended his little article with sigh. Like he's disappointed or something. Like he thinks the whole thing is silly.
Oh, okay.
And being a prior military person myself, oh, boo-hoo. Ooh, the Russians are mad because our weapon's better. And even though they've had it for a long time, and this is sort of what we have, the whole counter operations and all that sort of thing, where people can turn things off and countries can turn off satellites and stuff, and it's been out there for a long time. Personally, I think anything that gives us the advantage to be on top of the situation is great. Yeah. Cold War, man, is not gone. It's not dead. It's full effect doing the same thing. So anytime we can jam a satellite, I'm all about it. Oh, and here's something too. If you ever seen the symbol for Space Force, their emblem, it looks an awful lot kind of like Star Trek. Have you seen it? Kind of looks like the pyramid thing. Kind of looks like the Star Trek communicator symbol for the Federation. And people are like, you stole that from Star Trek. What if this is how the Federation is created?
Oh.
Is by the Space Force. And this is perpetuating itself in the future so that that symbol morphs into the Federation symbol. You see what I'm saying? So what if this is how the Federation symbol actually gets created?
Oh.
And what if Star Trek is actually real? It's just in the future. Because science fiction has been and turned into science fact for a lot of things because of Star Trek. What do you think about that?
That's an interesting
All you Star Wars people, boo-hoo!
Stop.
Anyway, so the Russians are suspicious about what we got going on up there.
Yeah.
And rightfully so, because when Reagan was talking about, hey, we got Star Wars and we can blow out any intercontinental ballistic missile out of the atmosphere, no problem. Russians got all freaked out about it. And pretty much that was one of the things that sort of sent the Soviet Union into a non-communist kind of thing, a state, if you will. And it turned out that was a falsehood.
Yeah.
So Reagan bluffed them, and they're like, oh, they've been like super butthurt about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And now we have our CCS weapon. And they're like, hey, can you tell us what it's all about, what it does? That's part of having a secret weapon. It's not telling you what it's all about. Like, oh, yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I like what yeah, it's cool, man. Let's just all get together. Well, yeah, we'll talk about it. Yeah, sure we will. Anyway, that's all. That's it. I'm done.
Okay.
That's all I got.
All right.
Yeah. You don't even care.
I do a little.
Okay, that's great. You do a little.
Well, I just want to remind everybody, we are trying to do live streams weekly, especially during this whole shutdown thing.
Corona stream.
Yeah, so that we can just check in with you guys and maybe talk a little bit. What we would appreciate is if you have stories or interesting things you want to talk about on the live stream, go ahead and send those to us. That's going to be contact@creepgeeks.com. Alternately, you can visit the website, creepgeeks.com, and click the Contact Us form, which is, I got to let you guys know, I need to check it. Alternately, give us a call, 575-208-4025. Join us on Facebook. That is the place where a majority of our listeners are. So we have an active Facebook page as well as a Facebook group. And we share a lot of stuff on there. So check us out. We do have an Instagram as well as all other social media platforms. You can find us. And yeah, that's about it. Oh, and we still have a sale on stickers. So
there you go.
Yeah.
Yes.
That sale will probably keep going through probably the middle of May.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm disagreeing with you. I have no idea how long that sale's going on for.
I've got it going on. I mean, I think we sold another set, and some of our Patreon members, their stickers are in the mail. Expect those this week.
Nice.
Yeah. That's the other thing. If you join us on Patreon, the contribution tiers actually get you stickers.
Get swag, man.
And swag.
Sent to your home.
Yep.
#reopen.
Yeah.
Yeah, but anyway, that's about all we got to talk about. And all the links and everything we talk about in the show is actually available for you to click on and do all that stuff if you go to our website. Because we put all the links right there for you to peruse and explore in your leisure. So, yes, you can go see what Mr. Seaborn has written. He writes actually a lot of interesting stuff in Mysterious Universe and Vice and links and all that good thing. So, yeah, there you go. Anything we talk about and share, we make sure that you have the ability to check it out as well. It's just something we do. Full disclosure. So it's all good. So, yeah. And if you're bored and you don't have anything to watch, there's all sorts of things you can watch on Amazon. On the Trail of UFO series, you should go check those out and watch them. They're available through Amazon Prime. And, Seth Breedlove and the Small Town Monster guys do good documentaries, and why not?
Yeah.
So, otherwise, that's about all we got.
Yeah.
So, see you later. Take it easy. Bye-bye.
Bye.